This morning we're heading out to Batavia, which is where Fermilab is located. I think it's about 43 miles on the road, something like that, out to the west of the city. And we've got a tour organised there at Fermilab at National Accelerator Laboratory. It originally started life 50 years ago, so there's a lot of special events taking place at Fermilab this year to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the founding of this, which is the United States' premier facility for research in particle physics. 50 years ago, it was established on 6,800 acres of pretty open land near Batavia, and it was founded by a man called Robert Rathbun Wilson. And you'll probably hear quite a lot about Wilson today. Robert Rathbun Wilson was a particle physicist, and he had quite an illustrious career. At the age of 26, he got his PhD, and he was mentored for his PhD by one of the most famous particle physicists at the time, Ernest Lawrence. Now, Ernest Lawrence was the man who invented the cyclotron. Now, a cyclotron is a way of accelerating electrically charged particles, and you can accelerate them to very high speeds in a spiral. The cyclotron was eventually superseded by its modern equivalent, the synchrotron, but cyclotrons are still used for medical physics. So we still have Lawrence's invention, the cyclotron, in medical facilities around the world. When Wilson graduated from his PhD, he went to work for Lawrence as a postdoc student. While he was welding some equipment, he melted a pair of pliers, and that was the last straw. Lawrence got rid of him. But this was to be the making of Wilson, because Wilson went to Princeton, and he there started work on something very new, and this was the separation of uranium-235, the fissile material, from the much more stable uranium-238. Now, at the time, of course, this was just a research project, but it was soon to become of national importance, because in 1943, Wilson was hired by Oppenheimer to work on the Manhattan Project. And he and all the key physicists around the US at the time were pushed off to Los Alamos, which is where the Manhattan Project was based. And of course, he worked with all of the greatest physicists at the time. In 1967, he got the job of establishing the National Accelerator Laboratory. He was a country boy, and he chose Batavia as the site for this new facility. And Wilson's stamp was all over the design of the facility. Wilson was interested in many things, including architecture, and he designed the main building of the laboratory after Bowden Cathedral in France. Soon after Wilson was appointed as director of the new National Accelerator Laboratory, this was in 1967, 50 years ago this year, he was asked to appear before Congress to justify how could he possibly be spending $250 million on this new nuclear physics facility. And everybody said, oh, that's going to be an easy one. You just talk about all the military importance and military implications. But Wilson was very much changed by the events of the Second World War. With the surrender of Nazi Germany in 1945, they were ready to just up sticks and go back to their civilian jobs. But of course, eyes were on Japan, and so carried on working on the atomic bomb after the defeat of Nazi Germany, and until August, of course, when the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Along with many people who worked on that project, Wilson was one who eventually worked to draft a worldwide document instructing how nuclear weapons should be controlled. And he was very much in favour of all controls that could possibly be brought in. So when asked to go before Congress to justify how he was spending $250 million, he was not about to be talking about the defence importance. Instead, he talked about the value of learning about the way the universe is made up, why it's important to understand the fundamental particles that make up the universe, and why this would lead to a deeper understanding, and possibly many applications that we couldn't at that time understand or dream of. Witness the thought that when the cyclotron was invented by Lawrence, possibly nobody had the ideas then of its medical applications in the years to come. And Wilson's closing statement to Congress was, "We are building this facility in the United States to create a knowledge and understanding of science and of the universe we live, and to create an ethos in the US which will make this a country worth defending." So he completely turned the whole thing on its head. And obviously Congress were happy with what he said because he carried on. 7 years after the National Accelerator Laboratory was founded, in 1974 it was renamed the Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory, or Fermilab as it's called today.